I didn't think it was possible, but I might have found a rival for note when it comes to my favorite horror movie of 2022 so far. This year has been so jam-packed with good horror such as X, Pearl, Prey, and so on, that it's honestly pretty difficult to really nail down a solid favorite. But then down from the heavens came the new Hellraiser, announced in 2019 and revealed to be following the source material a little more closely than the original 1987 masterpiece. Now, when it comes to reboots and reimaginings, it's no surprise when longtime horror fans are skeptical, especially considering how low the bar can get sometimes. Regardless, I try not to be a cynical douchebag when it comes to horror, since I've found that, more often than not, I might be able to find something I enjoy, and boy, let me tell you, that this movie has enjoyment in spades. Unlike my Jeepers Creepers Reborn review, which got way more views than I was expecting, so thank you guys for that, I won't be spending the entire time bitching and moaning because this was great from start to finish. Hulu has been killing it with their horror movies this year. Before we begin, make sure to give this video a like and maybe hit that subscribe button. It'd mean the world to me, and I'm halfway there to my goal of 500 subs by the end of the year. With the formalities out of the way, let's put on our finest BDSM gear and take a trip to the furthest regions of pain and pleasure as we look at Hulu's Hellraiser. As a longtime Hellraiser fan, it should come as no surprise to you whatsoever that I loathe and detest what the franchise spiraled into. I will admit that I am a fan of the campier entries in the series such as Hellraisers 3 and 4, because even though obviously not as good as the first two, they at least try, which is more than what can be said of later installments. Hellraiser 2022 is a much needed breath of fresh air after the atrocity that was Hellraiser Judgment. From the get-go, it's very clear that a lot of effort was put into this movie, as we're treated to one of the most haunting openings I've ever seen in a horror film. The story of this movie revolves around Riley, a recovering addict who gets wrapped up in the twisted games of the Cenobites. After stealing the Lament configuration in a desperate attempt to sell it for profit, she is haunted by visions of hellish demons and excruciating torture. The plot is solid, distinctly different from the original film and standing on its own 2 feet. Alongside Riley, we have a few supporting characters that will accompany us throughout the movie, such as her boyfriend Trevor and her brother Matt and his boyfriend Colin. The way the movie focuses so much on the character drama between this group of friends works to its benefit, since it gives us an idea of the history these characters share with one another and how it propels the story forward. David S. Goyer, who has writing credits for a lot of your favorite superhero movies, wrote the screenplay this time around, and his talent for writing a compelling story truly shines in this film. When it comes to the Cenobites, I couldn't be happier with how they're portrayed here. The practical effects in this movie are amazing and downright gross, which is greatly important for a series like this considering how much praise the effects in the original film received. We're shown a few new Cenobite designs as well as redesigns of old favorites such as Pinhead and Chatterer. Speaking of our lovely Hell Priest, the role of lead antagonist is played by the absolutely stunning Jamie Clayton. It goes without saying that stepping up to play an iconic role such as this in genre cinema is no easy task, and when you look back at Doug Bradley's legendary performances as the lead Cenobite, it's obvious that these are hard shoes to fill. Luckily, Clayton makes the role her own, and, no pun intended, kills it. If there is a sequel, I hope to see her version of the iconic Hell Priest given more spotlight, and if the ending of this movie is any indicator of the future, I wouldn't write off the possibilities for a follow-up. Now before you start typing in the comments, there are things that I felt weren't as strong as the other aspects of the movie, so don't worry Negative Nancy's, I got y'all's back. First shortcoming that comes to mind is the secondary antagonist. Obviously the Cenobites are going to be the meat and potatoes of people's interest in this movie, I get it, but you still have to make sure that your backup dancers are on beat, you get what I'm saying? Look at the original film. The conflict is as potent as it is because there are 2 equally threatening forces for our leading character to deal with and overcome. Plus, the plot twist near the end involving this shadowy figure feels extremely forced and not earned in the slightest. My biggest gripe, however, is that this movie honestly feels like it's too safe. What I mean by that is that for a series that was conceived by a gay man and is ripe with themes about sexuality and desire, this movie is pretty vanilla. Obviously, I don't expect this movie to be a complete Bang Bros production, but I mean, come on, this is Hellraiser we're talking about here. You have to be willing to take risks and push boundaries, and that's one thing this movie sadly doesn't really do. I wouldn't say that these flaws detract from the overall quality of the movie itself. I think this is a solid attempt at a new Hellraiser title. It definitely feels like it's many steps above the trash we've been forced to endure the last few decades, but there's a part of me that wanted more. Hopefully, if sequels are greenlit, they're more willing to take risks and experiment and show us that kinkier side of the Hellraiser franchise that we're so accustomed to. Hellraiser 2022 capitalizes on the rising trend of reboots and requels, and really stands out amongst them with its own spin on the original source material. It's not hard by any stretch of the word to make a movie that is going to be received better than all those crappy DVD bargain bin Hellraiser movies of yesteryear, but what is hard is rebooting a long-standing franchise such as this one and making it enjoyable. If you were to ask me, this movie ranks just below Hellraiser 2 in terms of overall quality. It's a modern take on an iconic character, and while the movie dips in quality as we get into that last 30 minutes, it's a strong start to a hopefully bright future. Thank you all for taking the time to view this review. I have been looking forward to this movie since it was announced, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. As always, subscribe if you'd like to see more horror content from me. I do love making these videos and talking about the movies that I love. Until next time though, I hope you all have a wonderful day, so be kind to one another and keep enjoying horror. Bye!